Descendant and Augiesaint here, and welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I want to share with you guys my ultimate Gley build. We have finally did it. I promised you guys, as soon as we get the Reactor implant system, I will get onto the Gley, because she, unfortunately, is one of the Descendants that really revolves around her Reactor. You can completely change the build depending on what you get with Reactor. So before in the past, we never really had a good Reactor, or we did have decent Reactors, but they had the wrong mountings on. Now obviously we can implant them, so here we are. I would like to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor for this video, Instant Gaming. If you guys don't know what they are, essentially they save you money on video games by cutting out the distribution cost. So if you're not going to be buying a physical copy and all you want to get is the CD key so you can actually play the game, you might as well save some money on it. And with Instant Gaming, it's 100% legit because they get all their keys directly from the source. So in the case of us pre-ordering Monster Hunter Wilds, as you guys can see, you can get it on all the platforms, Steam, Xbox, PlayStation. So we'll order the key and then they will go get it directly from the source. So in our case, it's going to be from Steam for us to go ahead and claim on our account. So in other words, you're not going to get some scam third-party CD key that doesn't work through Instant Gaming. With them having a 4.7 rating on Trustpilot with over 700,000 reviews. So if you want to save some money on video games and of course support the channel by doing so, click the first link down below in the description, check out Instant Gaming. After you create your account and purchase your game, you're going to get your activation key on your account and you can go claim it in the preferred platform and download your game, and it works. It's that simple. So go save yourself some money on video games, click the link down below in the description, and thank you Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Now, first of all, I just want to emphasize to you guys that Gley can be played in so many different ways. She can be played as a mobbing character, as a bossing character, although I would highly suggest to focus on her as a bossing character. And in doing the bossing character, there's like 3 different ways you can use her as a bosser. She can do mobbing, but I would not suggest to do mobbing with her. She's not really good at mobbing, but she's okay. She can get the job done. That's why we're going to mainly focus on using her as a bossing Descendant, which is what I prefer to use her. She has a couple of good weapons. She has a gun build. We have the Massacre group build, we have the Massacre solo build, and we also have the AOE builds. I will share with you guys all of these builds in this video, so check the timestamps down below. So just before we get into those builds, I want to give you guys a little bit more information on Gley. So like I said, there's so many ways you can play her. This ultimately, after all the testing I done yesterday on stream, we streamed for like 7 hours trying to get Massacre Gley just, you know, perfect and trying to get her beautiful. We can solo all the solo bosses up until Swamp Walker. We can almost kill Swamp Walker with this boom or bust build, which is just full send, full damage build, not worrying about cooldown anything. And I think if I had a better Reactor, I might even be able to one-phase Swamp Walker as well. As you guys can see in the background, we get him pretty close, and we tried multiple ways and different ways, like shooting him with a sniper rifle first, or shooting him with like different combinations of mods. And everything we did just basically ended up about more or less the same ballpark area, like 20 to 30% HP. Which I think we might be able to achieve with a better Reactor. And the Reactor I would do for like the solo bossing, just boom or bust, would be as much Colossus damage as you can get, and then non-attribute or dimension power boost on the Reactor. Mine unfortunately only has Colossus damage, and it's like a low purple roll, and it has cooldown reduction, so we're missing out on quite a bit of damage there. That's why I think with the proper Reactor and this build in the background right now, boom or bust, we should be able to one phase all the solo bosses. I think if anyone has a good Reactor and like a similar build and want to go try it out, if anyone has managed to solo Swamp Walker one phase on Gley, please let me know. I would like to know if it's possible. We tried for like a good 2-3 hours yesterday on stream, just over and over trying to get him done. So that is what I'll let you guys know. But then this build right here, this is the one I'm going to show you guys first, and let's focus on this one. This is the best overall Massacre build I could suggest for you guys. Massive shout out to Trey from my community over on Discord and Twitch. He is our resident ultimate Gley main. He just cooks on Gley and he pumps on Gley like really hard. So this is pretty much his build. And then we have customized a little bit to our liking, as well as around our Reactor. As you guys can have a look here at increased sensory, we all know this is what gives us the Massacre loop where you can like shoot it infinitely, because when you use this ability, your guns do not consume ammo, and since your Massacre is technically a gun, it pulls from your stat stick as well, so it's important to remember that. Basically, we can just loop our Massacre over and over, and you can see with this we have a massive duration of 10.1 seconds, and then the cooldown is at 10.2 seconds. Now, I found anything between like 0.3 and 0.4 seconds was okay, but once I go over 0.4 seconds of difference between the cooldown and duration, then it doesn't seem to loop anymore for me. So 0.4 is like the highest I could achieve with my FPS and my latency and everything. Obviously, maybe you guys could achieve higher if you had more stable latency and FPS or something. But I want to say you want to aim for like at maximum a 0.4 second difference between the cooldown and duration to infinitely loop your ammo where you don't have to think about it. Because if we run our Colossus one, let me show you guys, for example. So this is our Reactor for the Massacre, this is the one for group bossing. So let me switch around my reactor real quick and I'll show you guys. This one over here has the Colossus and skill cooldown. Now we don't have the duration on this one. So let's go have a look at our infinite loop. As you can see now, the difference is at 0.3 seconds between the cooldown and duration, which is like still doable, although it's a little bit tighter. So if you miss that one, like while you're in combat or something and you miss spamming, you know, the increased sensory, because you really have to be on top of spamming this while shooting the boss, while avoiding stuff and everything like that. You got to focus really hard, otherwise you might actually lose this and then you'll run out your Massacre. What I could suggest for you guys to actually keep this up and manage a little bit better, if you want to run with the Colossus one, what you do is, let me just pull out my Massacre real quick and reset our stacks. So we see we are at no stacks of Gley's actual resource, and we use Massive Sanguination once. Now, since we have 3 of those blood orbs, if we go into Massacre, we'll have 3 shots. But what I like to do is, you know, pre-fight, I would actually do the Massive Sanguination 3 times, and then we'll actually have 9 of the blood orbs. So when you go into your Massacre, you'll have 9 shots. It'll just be a little bit easier to manage your infinite ammo, because if you forget the infinite ammo, you can see we'll keep shooting, and then once we get close to it ending, I'm going to keep shooting before I press the V, just to show you guys that you still have like a little bit of a headroom. As you can see, they had started eating away at it and I didn't press it right away. So that is what you could do, just, you know, to make it a little bit easier to manage if your cooldown and your duration doesn't line up as good as what it should. But otherwise, I would just suggest to run with the cooldown duration one, like we have it set up over there, for just a perfect overall loop. And it also has more duration. That little bit of duration there is going to add so much, because we're gaining like what, 0.6 seconds of extra duration. That's over half a second of extra duration. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think of how fast the Massacre is actually shooting, it kind of makes up for that damage that you would get from the Colossus damage. Obviously, the damage per pellet on the Colossus is going to be more, but in the end of the day, you're going to end up shooting more if it loops better and you have less, you know, time to worry about. So basically, it's just comfy. It's less damage, but it is super comfy, and you pretty much never run out. You just have to spam your V. And since it is a 0.1 second difference, it'll just instantly, you know, bring it up, and you can just keep on massacring all the time. The Deathstalker fight that was at the intro with the 107 million damage, that was using this build, also using this reactor. So no Colossus damage. We ran with the cooldown duration reactor. So that's just what I wanted to let you guys know, why we actually decided to run it the way we do. Now let's actually talk about the mods. Sorry about this being so long, but that's why there is timestamps down below, so you guys can go follow along. But Gley is just such a complex character, and you can really build around your reactor. That's why I say if you get a different reactor, you know, change mods and stuff. We'll talk about that all right now before we get lost in the source. So let's hop into the mod setup. So this is Massacre Trace Labs. This is the Massacre build. First up, we have Massive Sang. This is just to help us get a little bit of blood orbs, you know, so we can get them quickly. We can get 3 right at the beginning of the fight, and we can pull out our Massacre. You don't need to level this up all the way. As you can see, we still have 2 extra slots there. So you could leave this at like 2 levels from max, just to save yourself some Kuiper and gold if you are running low. But Massive Sang, there's no other way to run the Massacre build. This just gives you so much extra, you know, quality of life. So you don't have to go ahead and try and get some critical hits and stuff to actually get your blood orbs to then actually pull out your Massacre. And then we run 1 focus mod, because these have a little bit less skill power modifiers than their corresponding other mods, but they give you that skill cooldown. And as you guys can see, it's really important that our skill cooldown and everything lines up perfectly. So with our reactor, we can run 1 focus mod, but if you don't have like good cooldown duration on your reactor, that's why I say it depends on your reactor, because you could actually drop our second attack mod is skill simplification. This just gives us massive damage, and we don't need MP as Gley. But if you don't have a reactor that's giving you, you know, the 0.3 difference, I would go more than a 0.3 second difference. Otherwise, like I said before, you'll end up with the difficulty of it not perfectly looping. So you just have to customize these 2 mods depending on what your reactor is. But ultimately, I think this is the most damage, because that skill simp is a massive skill power modifier we're getting there. And we're also getting this non-attribute one. But if you don't have the cooldown and the duration on your reactor lining up perfectly, all you do is you remove skill simp and you put on focus on dimension right there to gain the cooldown, to then line up. When I put this on, my cooldown actually go down to like 7 seconds. So then it'll be massive cooldown difference there. So you should be able to reach that with any reactor combination, even if you don't have duration on the reactor or cooldown at all. You have both focus mods on plus the other mods we have set up. It should still easily cycle you, know, like the infinite loop. So just keep that in mind when you are building her out, and also depending on your reactor. Next up, we are running both of the new mods, non-attribute amp and dimension amp, because these are just giving us massive skill power modifiers and giving us negative crit, but we don't really focus too much on crit with Gley, since her base crit is so low anyway. Unless you're building a very specific build around like having a lunar support buddy, then you can build into crit. But this is just overall how we like to build her for general use, and, you know, not relying on anybody else. to buffer up. So that is why we're running both of these for just massive power boost. And then we're running Dangerous Ambush. Now we've extensively tested Dangerous Ambush versus Walker Tightrope, and even solo, Dangerous Ambush is just more damage overall, because when they get knocked down, getting that massive 50% skill power boost, whereas Walker Tightrope does boost your skill power as well as your firearm, but as you can see, that is a skill power modifier, so it's going to add 30% to your Massacre, so it's going to make that the modifier a little bit higher, but the skill power won't change. Whereas Dangerous Ambush is a skill power boost of 50%, so it's making the modifier pull more from like more base skill power. So overall, Dangerous Ambush is just outperforming Walker Tightrope even in group situations, because in group situations you pretty much always have the 24%. So Dangerous Ambush is a huge multiplier, especially when you're solo. When you're solo, this just completely destroys Walker Tightrope. The way this becomes interesting and where Walker Tightrope actually competes, or maybe is a little bit better than Dangerous Ambush, is group play, because the bosses obviously have more HP in group play. So then Walker Tightrope might be better since you're getting that 30% skill power modifier as well as the firearm attack. So it is boosting two things on your Massacre. But overall, at the end of the day, it's very, very close between the two. So really run whichever one you want. We prefer to just run Dangerous Ambush, because when the bosses do get immobilized, which, you know, can happen in groups as well, most of the time they will fall down once by themselves, and then after that they'll fall down if group members, or even if yourself, if you go and break like a part or something, you break your shoulder or something. And that 50% skill power boost that you get there is huge, especially how fast Massacre shoots with a crazy fire rate. That 50% is going to be a huge chunk of damage that you gain there with Dangerous Ambush. So we like to keep it simple and just run Dangerous Ambush, although you could argue that Walker Tightrope definitely has its place, especially for group play, but for solo play, Dangerous Ambush wins out by far. We have tested that extensively. And then moving on to duration. Now we need all these duration mods. Unfortunately, we need to go maximize duration. We do get the negative skill power modifier there, but having that extra duration still makes up for the little bit of damage loss we have there. So running Battle Stamina for HP and duration, running Maximized Duration over there for, you know, even more duration, and then Skill Extension. So all three of these durations with the duration on a Reactor puts us at a 10.1 second duration. So really good over there on the increased sensory. So we can go ahead and spam away with Massacre. Then we have Skill Simp. Like I told you guys before, this really depends on your Reactor. So if you can't get the cooldown and duration to line up within 0.3 seconds, change this over to Focus on Dimension. And then lastly, we have our two cooldown mods, MP Conversion, Nimble Fingers. Very important, because you guys know our cooldown and everything just lines up so perfectly, so you really need all the cooldown you can get. So that's going to be the best mod setup for group Massacre play. With this build, I was able to get that 107 million damage on Deathstalker at the beginning of the video. So this is the exact build we used. And then the component sets we use with our Reactor, obviously you want to go non-attribute dimension. You want to make sure you are using the Python, and I'll show you guys the Python mods in a second. And then the component set for group play, we're using Annihilation. So for Gley, it's just going to be defensive stats as well as HP, because she can't use shields or MP. So shields and MP is completely useless to her. So we have max HP, fire res, show resistance there. We have pretty much resistance on all the pieces. So Gley is pretty tanky. This one we have defense and resistance. And then the bottom one, we have toxic resistance as well. So most importantly, just try and get some resistance on all of these pieces, because nothing else really matters. Resistance and defense is like the only thing that's going to benefit her. As you can see, we have 16.5k defense, 8k HP. And then if we have a look at our raises, we've got just about 4k raises on everything except for electric there. It's a little bit lower, but close to 4k raise on everything else. So she's pretty tanky overall. I know we don't have a huge HP pool, but the way we have it set up with the battle stamina, the duration, everything just lines up so perfectly. If you wanted to, you could drop battle stamina and run with an HP mod, because you can see if we change that out, it only goes down to 9.6 seconds. So the infinite loop won't be possible unless you change Skill Simp over to a focus mod as well. So if you really wanted to do that, you could go ahead and do that. But honestly, I've had no problems running it at this HP and the way we have it set up. And now let's have a quick look at the Python setup, because this is pretty important as well. What actually works on the weapon that carries over to your Massacre is going to be weak point damage, firearm attack, and fire rate. So we are running have aiming and weak point sight for massive weak point damage boost. And we are running action reaction, rifle reinforcements for massive firearm attack, as well as charge amplification, giving us a massive 67% increased firearm attack. We do lose the firearm crit damage, but we don't really care about crit damage and crit chance with Gley. So getting that huge amount of firearm attack there is just going to boost your Massacre so much more. Definitely suggest that. And then we go for fire rate, because this also affects the Massacre. So you want to get the blue fire rate up, as well as sharp precision shot, because with this it's going to charge up to those 10 stacks, and when it reaches that, you'll be doing so much damage, it's going to be insane, because your fire rate is just going to go through the roof. And then lastly, we have these two slots over here for elemental boost. Now that you don't need there, we're only picking that up for the 2% of weak point damage. There's like nothing else we could really put there. But as you can see, that is an R slot. I think that's the one that the gun came with. And then these ones over here We have a few different slots over here, so we can pretty much put all of the elemental combos in our weapon except for chill. We can't get maxed out chill with the priority mod as well as the enhancement mod. But if you have to choose between which one of these two elemental mods, you definitely want to choose the enhancement mod first, because this one adds electrical attack equal to 30% of your firearm attack. So more firearm attack, more electrical damage. But this is what's going to give you that elemental damage to start with. This is only going to boost the elemental damage. So this is definitely the less priority one. I know it says the priority, but yeah, this is the second priority. You want to go for the elemental enhancement first. So in the case of us running the chill one, we can only run the chill enhancement. We can't run chill priority. But this does add a substantial amount of damage, because when Massacre shoots, it actually does 3 instances of damage. It does skill power damage, which is like all your modifiers, the Massacre damage. Then it does weapon power damage, and then it also does the element. Now, it doesn't apply the element to the mobs, but it does do it as like straight up damage. And by using the priority mods, it's going to increase the damage of that. Now, it was quite a big boost, so I would highly recommend running the priority mods if you can. So definitely go ahead and catalyze your Python as much as you want, so you can kind of use it for every situation. But that is how we have our Python setup. Now this is going to be the same way we have it on all the setups, even for the solo bossing build. Now let's have a look at our solo bossing build. Now the way we have this setup is just pure damage with 1 clip on the Massacre, because we can't infinitely loop the increased sensory for the ammo. As you can see there, the cooldown is 77 seconds, but we only have a duration of 8.3 seconds. But all the bosses pre-Swamp Walker, you can kill them in 1 clip of the Massacre. Let's have a look at the mods. Obviously, Massive Sanguine to build up for the stacks for the Massacre. We have Maximized Power there for just huge skill power modifier. Now we do have non-attribute Synctium. This one is optional. You could just drop this for another HP mod if you wanted. But if you're going to be using this build, you're only going to be using it on the solo bosses anyway. And you should definitely kill them before they kill you doing it like this. That's why I just went for the most amount of damage as possible. But if you want, drop that out for HP just to be a little bit safer. And then we run Outstanding Investment for the skill duration. Now this is a little bit less skill duration than Maximized Duration, but you don't get that negative skill power modifier. So for this quick, super fast, OP bossing build, with the duration we have, it's more than enough to wipe out all the bosses. So that's why we thought we're just going to boost our damage as much as possible. And with this duration, we have easily managed to beat all the solo bosses. And we have maximized skill there just for even more skill power, for maximum skill power damage as we can on our Massacre. Battle Stamina for a little bit of duration. Iron Defense for a little bit of skill power modifier. We do have maximized skill, which is a huge skill power modifier already. We kind of want to increase our skill power modifier, because that's going to change how much this modifies on the Massacre. As you can see there, it's taking 177% of our skill power, which is being boosted obviously by maximum skill. And then that's changing the modifier as well. So that's why Iron Defense is going to give you more damage overall than what Spear and Shield is, because we just have such a big amount of skill power to begin with. That's why the modifier is going to be so useful, especially since the Massacre modifier is actually pretty small to start out with, only 68%. So 12% boosting on top of that, it's all just going to add up to more damage. Skill Extension for duration. Dangerous Ambush for massive damage again, especially since you're going to be knocking down the boss so fast, because you do so much damage against these solo bosses. You'll knock them down, and then you'll be doing 50% increased skill power boost, which then is going to tie in with that skill power modifier. You guys can see how it goes. It's just massive damage all over the place. Then we have both of the new mods, Dimension Amp and Non-Attribute Amp, just for massive amounts of increased skill power on this one, and then skill power modifier on that one. So all of this together alongside with the Reactor, we change our Reactor to Colossus damage for solo. Now, ideally, you want Colossus damage and non-attribute or dimension boost. So just replace that skill cooldown, because that's completely useless to us. But unfortunately, this is the only decent one we have with Colossus damage. But most importantly, Colossus damage, and it has to be a dimension non-attribute Reactor. Second stat, just get dimension boost or non-attribute boost, and then you should be able to one phase Swamp Walker with the setup. And then for components, we do switch out over to the Slayer set just for increase, that 26% skill power boost there. So again, just giving us a massive amount of skill power boost. So all in all, you're just going to wipe out the bosses off the face of the earth. You just do so much damage with the solo build. Now let's have a look at the gun glade. So this is just to have infinite loop on your ammo. As you can see there, we have the 10.2, 10.1 on the increased sensory. So that's going to give you infinite loop on ammo. So you can just go to town forever and ever and ever. And it gives you a massive amount of defense as well. As you guys can see, we have 44k defense and 16k HP, making us super, super tanky with this build. And then we have shot focus as well to boost our firearm attack. So let's have a look at the mods. Massive Sang doesn't really matter. You don't really need that. I mean, we're not really trying to use Massacre. I've heard that Predator Instinct could be usable on the Enduring Legacy, but I personally have not tested it myself, since we just like to play Massacre. And whenever we do use the gun build, we're pretty much just using the Executor shotgun with it, so we don't really use our Transcendence module up there. So Predator Instinct, you guys will have to play with that one. I don't know yet. Maybe we could do a future video where we check that out. But for now, we're just running Massive Sang. We have Shot Focus there for the firearm attack, since we're going to be focusing on just using our gun. We have Nimble Fingers and MP conversion for cooldown, as well as focus on non-attribute. Now this could be focus on anything, doesn't matter. Only reason we're running this focus mod is for the skill cooldown. And then we run increase HP along with battle stamina, just for big HP boost increase, as well as that duration to line up perfectly. We have shield conversion over there just for massive amount of defense. We have skill extension for even more duration, maximize duration again for even more duration. And then Walker Tightrope, this one, since it's giving us that firearm boost, so this is going to be really helpful to increase your firearm damage. Now this does cap out at 50%. However, the Annihilation set doesn't cap out. So the lower you are with Annihilation set, the more gun damage you'll be doing. But Walker Tightrope, once you hit 50% HP, it's doing the maximum of 30% firearm attack. And in saying that, I would suggest to run the Annihilation set with this gun build as well. It's just going to tie it up really good with the skill duration. And then obviously the firearm attack increase proportional to your ratio of HP to HP lost, up to 26% when your HP is 50% or lower. But this, for whatever reason, we tested this in the lab. And when we go lower, we took our health down. Every time we would shoot with like lower HP, it would increase your damage. So this doesn't seem to cap out at 50%. So going as low as you want with that, obviously while staying safe, is definitely important to keep in mind. But just so you know, this doesn't cap out. It will keep giving you damage the lower you are, whereas the Walker Tightrope does cap out at 50%. We tried that one with Walker Tightrope. You do not get more damage past that with 50%. And then Reactor we're running is going to be cooldown duration again. Just this is basically the same one we use for our Massacre build. You don't have to use the correct non-attribute and dimension boost. Whichever reactor you have with the best cooldown and duration is the reactor you want to use. Now, if you don't have a perfect cooldown duration reactor, you only have like duration or you only have cooldown, like I said before in the Massacre build, all you got to do is change up some mods. So the optional mod for me over here would be the shield conversion. You could remove the shield conversion and put another focus mod in there just to increase your cooldown if you don't actually have that on your reactor. So this is completely optional, this mod over there. Although everything else is pretty important, especially the duration over there. So all three of these are really important. Then both of the, or all three of these again, are really important for the cooldown. Shot focus again is just going to be boosting your gun damage, and this is the gun Gley build, so that's why I say those are all really important. These two right here are the optional increase HP, although I wouldn't suggest running with no HP mod, that you do need all that HP, you know, as a resource and just to be tanky. But that's going to be it for the gun Gley. So infinite ammo loop, this is it. Now let's quickly look at the last build, the AOE build. I don't actually use this one that much, but when I do go level up my Gley running the Albion defense missions, I pop this on. Has a massive amount of range, as you can see, at 34.4 meters. I believe it's the most range of any skill in the game. We are running Massive Sang, where you can pretty much just jump between Frenzy and Massive Sang when you just like delete the map over and over and over. Only problem with this is I don't have a good reactor. But if I was to get a good reactor for this, I would run a double damage boost reactor. So I would run to get some non-attribute dimension on the reactor, both of those as a damage boost, because as you can see the range there, we don't need range, the range is insane. And then the weapon I would use with this would be the Peacemaker. So you're trying to get yourself a Peacemaker non-dimension attribute, and this could actually do a ton of damage by just spamming out the Massive Sang. And then we have multi-talented, since when using a dimension skill, which is our Massive Sanguination, we'll get cooldown. You can pretty much just spam this infinitely. You see it only has a 5.1 second cooldown. And when we use the dimension skill, we'll get the boost from multi-talented, and we can just spam this over and over and over. It does actually do a decent amount of damage. The only thing is like the bosses and elites, you'd have to stop. But since you'll be full blood orbs, you can just pop out your Massacre, activate your increased sensory. It only has a 5-second duration, but within 5 seconds, you'll definitely wipe out any elite in your path. So if you want to use this for 400%, it could easily achieve that. As well as the set I would use would be the Slayer set. So Slayer set for increased damage. And then, like I said, the Reactor non-attribute dimension, with both of those boosting that on the Peacekeeper. But that's going to be it for my Gley builds, guys. Sorry it's such a lengthy video. Hopefully you guys found everything good down below in the timestamps. If you made it this far, can we get Gley is life in the chat? Gley is love. We do it for Gley. I know she makes our life complicated, but hey, that's Gley. We all love Gley. Queen Gley. I actually love this character so much, but she's just such a pain to play sometimes with managing your HP and bosses and stuff like that. But overall, I really do like Gley. So if you guys have any questions or any suggestions or anything, drop them down below in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you liked it, please drop a like and a sub to the channel. It helps me out tremendously, and I'll catch you beautiful people in the next video, as well as the live streams. Augiesaint out.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the